Hello, friends, and welcome to Worldbuild with us, the podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty. I'm here with my co-hosts Daniel Quinn and Courtney Staples. On today's episode, we are forced to take a divergent path due to COVID in order to talk about a different topic very briefly. Hopefully next week we'll get back to our regularly scheduled episodes, but until then, we have something really special, mostly the fact that Courtney Staples is back with us. Courtney, so glad to have you.
So glad to be back.
Yeah. Daniel, you stay golden, all right?
Hello.
So what we're going to be doing today, because this is kind of a last minute change up, is we're essentially just going to be creating a setting, a scenario with bits and pieces that we've each brought in. So I have brought in a place, Courtney has brought in a building, and Daniel has brought in an object, and we're going to try and figure them all out and smush them together, create a world based around that. And then, of course, the fate of the dice will force us to fuck everything up, add in genres and twists and all sorts of fun stuff. So, because I brought the place, I brought in a town or hamlet or maybe even a city called Gate. The way that I pictured Gate being was, it was once the frontier of an empire, and a giant walled-in city, or rather something akin to the Great Wall meets the Wall of the North from Game of Thrones. And except now we've flung everything into the future where the empire doesn't really exist anymore, but their infrastructure still does. So there's still these massive walls and these massive gates that still exist, and people actually live within the walls themselves. And the town itself is the gate, like it's the archway that was once granting entryway into the empire. So that's where I want to start. And Courtney, what is your building within Gate?
Sure. So this is interesting because I was thinking about a concert hall, or to make it even more broad, just a music venue, somewhere where people go to play music, to watch music performed. Um, and I didn't have any very specific things in mind, although I was thinking about, oddly enough, some sort of post-apocalyptic, post-collapse type setting. So I guess it does kind of tie in there.
Fascinating. Yeah, we can definitely work with that. So we have a music venue is the general broad topic that we're working with, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, cool. So Daniel, what is your object that we're going to be working with as well?
It's funny that we are all kind of in a futuristic mode, because I was too. I imagine there being a structure that's it most likely is a vessel of some kind that's collapsed, or is like in a wreck, and the principal characters discover in the collapsed or broken vessel pods containing copies of themselves.
All right, so your object is a giant spaceship or vessel, as you call it, that is filled with copies of what exactly? People of whoever enter the vessel?
Either the principal characters of the story or whoever discovers it.
That's spooky. I like it.
Okay, so we've got our basic premise down. We've got Gate, we've got a music venue, and we've got a vessel. So what the first thing that we're going to do is try and create a genre that we can work it around. We'll workshop that and we'll continue on. So the genre that we're going to be turning this into is going to be science fiction. All right, that is
that makes sense.
Yeah, that works, it's funny when I originally envisioned Gate, I actually had fantasy in mind rather than like post-apocalypse or anything like that. So I'm glad that we can kind of figure it out. It obviously Daniel comes in with the sci-fi flavor. That's about as typical as me coming in with a fantasy thing. So yeah, that's fine. All right, so let's go ahead and sci-fi this whole scenario that we have going on up, shall we?
I like your your idea that this is like a post imperial society, like this is after the great heights of some civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And I now that we're in sci-fi, I have to ask: are these like physical walls that we're talking about, or is this some kind of intergalactic wall, like a more hypothetical or less concrete wall of some kind? You know, like if we're talking about hyperspace travel, is it someplace that it acts as a barrier to FTL or something like that? Because that's something that I'm
oh,
also kind of curious about as well.
that's interesting. So then the stage would really be not a planet, but a large system or a large area of space.
Well, actually, that's not a bad point. I mean, we could have Gate be a planet, right? And
Hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
have that planet kind of be the generator to a shield of some kind that prevents FTL from going through their system.
Well, I like that. So it's almost like they've wrapped their system in, I don't know, maybe the way they prevent, quote unquote, prevent faster than light travel through the system is they've wrapped their system in a wormhole.
Oh,
Oh,
that sounds
interesting.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
let's explore that a little bit. Can you say more about that, Daniel or Courtney?
I'll let Courtney pick up, but my thoughts are if you wrapped your system somehow in something that's like a wormhole, that would mean traveling to the system would pass you through it to someplace else. So it's kind of like bouncing off a mirror. So that's the concept there.
Hmm.
When you say that, I'm also thinking that it's rather than like bouncing off a mirror, maybe it's just you pass immediately through it as well.
Yeah,
Like it's a
exactly.
oh, so Gate is not just about the system, it's also about the giant area as well. So that might be
Yeah,
interesting to work with.
that's it. So it's like the gate is like, can you get past the gate? Meaning, if you can't get to their planet because or their system because the wormhole transports you to someplace else when you try to pass through it.
Yeah, like if
Hmm.
we're looking
Yeah.
at it's basically transporting you from one edge to the other. Every
Mm-hmm.
time you try and pass through it, it spits you out the opposite end.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I bet it's hard for them for people unaware of the situation to notice because I bet that this wormhole is so big. Can you know how like you can have really super, at least theoretically, really giant supermassive black holes
Hmm.
where potentially you can pass through the singularity because they're so large and rotating, and so the tidal forces won't kill you. I mean that's the theory, right? So perhaps this wormhole is so large that navigational instruments don't notice it, and the only way to
Mm,
really tell is to make really precise measurements of time such that we lost more seconds than or fewer seconds than is necessary to travel to this region of space to
Hmm.
notice that there's something
mm.
there.
Hmm.
I was thinking that as well. You know, like people would not even notice it, you know, unless they really had to pay attention or something like that.
Interesting. But I guess that also brings up the question of like, why did they construct it like that in the first place? Were they trying to defend themselves against something? Were they trying to keep something in the system to themselves? Like they didn't want it to get out?
Well, see, that's the more interesting. That's the more interesting option. I suppose what's interesting there is the implication that is this a two-way gate or a one-way gate? You know, like are they able to come and go as they please, or is this a self-quarantining, you know, like kind of wall that they've created? What do you
I
think the more interesting option would be?
I have a feeling that the way like the way out is through that vessel that's crashed on the planet.
Oh, your vessel.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Interesting.
It's a
Interesting.
ship that doesn't travel.
Hmm. Is it okay? So your vessel, is it the key or is it the lock?
Ooh, can it be both?
I'm gonna say no because we still have Courtney to think about.
Okay,
Mm.
maybe it's the key.
All right, so it's the key, and Courtney's music venue is going to be the lock. Let's think
It
about it that way.
generates the field, the
Yeah,
wormhole field.
Oh,
right.
nice. Yeah.
And it is, and this is going to be like the loosest definition of a music venue, in that it's like a sonic resonator field of some kind, right?
It
Like,
Ooh, yes. Yeah.
it uses the harmony of superstrings to
mhm.
create enough spatial distortion to cause this wormhole. Oh no, okay, even better. Superstrings are too played out. We're gonna use cosmic strings.
Okay.
It amplifies the cosmic strings that are around this area such that it creates this wormhole portal around the whole system.
Daniel, 3 people were like, fuck yeah, cosmic strings. Those other strings are so played out, man. But okay, but in all seriousness, I do really appreciate where that kind of energy is going. There's this kind of like sonic, there's this kind of like divine concordance to it, right? Like where it's divine music, literally. So this music venue, Courtney, that you've created, now that we've got the idea that it's, you know, feeding on some kind of silly string of Daniel's creation, is it actual music, or is it like the type of music where you just kind of have to feel the vibrations, man? Was it recorded in 432 hertz is my question, I guess.
Yeah, now this has me thinking of, have you ever played Stellaris?
Yes, yeah.
With the space whales?
I don't... Wait, aren't those Star Trek 5 space whales?
I thought there were space whales in Stellaris too, or some kind of like space creature. So now I'm thinking of like whale songs and that sort of kind of music. So definitely not something that you would, you know, sit there and chill out to, but something much more cosmic in nature. Go figure.
Okay, as soon as you said whale songs, I'm now thinking that there are these like massive leviathans that are obviously intergalactic, but do they feed on wormholes, or do they attract wormholes? Like I'm like imagining them to be so immense that they are warping, you know, time and space around them. You know, like
they're higher dimensional, and so which would ally with the concept of a cosmic string.
Okay, there we go. Simple as that. You just need to have really smart people around you, and it makes it sound everything sounds really easy.
This is like totally scientifically sound, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, of course. I consulted my armchair physicist specialist, and he says it's fine. He's me, by the way.
I was going to say, is it just like a sock on your other hand? Because that's what I'm picturing.
Yes, it has a little wig like Einstein.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
All right. So this is already really pretty fucking cool. So Daniel, we've announced that your vessel is the key, correct?
Yes.
So in what way is this vessel of yours a key?
I think that it's the way out of the place, right? So I don't know the way in, but if you go to it, and it must be, but currently it's damaged because we were in like a post, I don't want to say post-apocalypse, we're in like a post-height of civilization situation. So it must be damaged, but if you can get it active again, you can use it to exit the wormhole in the system.
All right.
It won't go anywhere, but it'll send you out.
So the idea that this thing is damaged immediately makes me think that this galactic empire that has the gate field around it and everything like that was actually basically the Empire. And it was initially utilizing this gate as like a supreme defense mechanism, right? But there is some kind of rebellion or, you know, tactical strike that happened that disables the vessel, and now it's two-way. So now, yeah, exactly. So now they can't get out and they can't come in. And as a result, eventually the empire crumbled due to infighting because, you know, that's just what happens to fascism when it doesn't have a foreign enemy.
Exactly. So you're saying too that you can use it to turn the shield off as well?
I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that the vessel is the key. And the vessel is damaged. So why was it damaged? That's kind of where my brain went.
Yeah.
And it had to be deliberate, you know, like that's kind of what I was thinking about it.
Right.
So one of the things you brought up, Daniel, was the fact that there are clones, like bodies inside of the ship. And I'm wondering, like, if the way to get out isn't really a physical way of escaping. It's like more so your soul is somehow transported out, and the clones in the ship are actually just like husks of people who had been transported out previously.
Ooh, maybe the people that live in the town are descendants of those clones. Like they themselves are clones of them. And that's why they look the same. But I like the idea of transporting your mind out. Like you can't actually move your body out of the field.
Right, yeah. So the bodies are just left there like in stasis, but the souls are elsewhere, wandering
Cool,
around
because
the galaxy.
that would mean okay, if this is a galactic empire, they're doing I forget the terminology for it, but in sci-fi there's the concept of like instead of going out and traveling into space to explore space, you send probes out and you can accomplish as much exploration if not more that way and have the information relayed back to you. So maybe the way this galactic empire functioned, or at least its leaders, they never left their planet. They would send their minds out, embed them into bodies out there, explore the galaxy, and then the information will be transmitted back to them.
Yes, and that would also allow them to do like a lot of power plays out in the like if they're actually able to take over other bodies
Mm-hmm.
out there, they could like potentially get into foreign governments and
Yep. And
get
how can
high
you
up.
stop them? You can kill them and it
Right,
won't matter, right?
right. Yeah.
That actually really reminds me of a cyberpunk story that I read a couple of years ago, and I'm blanking on the name. But essentially, it's pretty much that where uh, bodies were sent out. So they had these like lower class people who were prisoners go out and colonize a world using their bodies, and then eventually, once the world was habitable enough, then the rich people who or actually not even the rich people, it was more like the ancestors of the rich people who sent them off to colonize the planet would then come in and take over the bodies, and the people's minds, like the laborers' minds, would then be dragged back into their version of the matrix. So it's
Wow.
I like
Mm.
this idea of like a hive mind almost, but not necessarily a hive mind. It's like just a cyberpunk hellscape that I want to kind of go with.
No, I like it. And there's a
Mhm.
question of whether the Galactic Empire was bad or not. Like they might have been not actually like having nefarious intent, like in their method of traveling, or they might have been conquerors. And but also the term I forgot is they're called von Neumann probes. They're self-replicating probes. And that's the idea of like you wouldn't have to travel and explore the galaxy. You send these probes that replicate themselves out.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, so I feel like we've gotten a really solid basis for what this world and what the setting is looking like. I'm really fucking digging it. I like the idea that there's space whales. Great job, Courtney. So now I think that we've done that. We're going to go through and kind of finish off the world building jam that we've already started here. So next, we're going to create a subject for this world that we're creating here. So let's see what we get.
I do have one question.
Go for it.
What was the function of the space whales? Did they generate the music or?
Yeah, they're responsible for the wormholes in some way.
Okay, and they're in the planet, like in the oceans of the planet, or are they like floating around the planet, the space?
We didn't really have a concrete answer for that, Daniel, and I'm totally fine with that being the case.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll figure that out.
All right. So next we have the subject of our next topic, which is going to be. So we rolled an event. So I would like to, because we have a cataclysm, which I think that we've already kind of touched on here with the locking in of the gate. So let's create a different event that we can kind of figure out and make and go a different direction for this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should.
You know what? I think it'd be easier if we also gave that event some kind of a theme to go along with it. I think it's hard to kind of create things in a vacuum.
Mhm.
So let's
Yeah.
go ahead and add in a theme. And that theme is going to be metamorphosis. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Interesting. Hmm.
That can fit pretty easily.
I think so. I think we can go with some kind of a metamorphic event here.
I mean, does that suggest that they had initial sets of goals that changed, or does it just suggest that they changed?
I like the idea of goals changing because in my mind, like we've already kind of established that there was a galactic empire and then they were locked in and then the event forced them to change, right? So maybe this isn't a galactic empire anymore. Maybe we can talk about what kind of a government or what kind of a system we've created so far.
Mhm.
After the fact or in present day?
Well, what's the difference?
Or I mean, like, do we want to talk about what the empire was in the past, or as it is now with that town that's like, or that civilization that's kind of living in it post fall?
Well, let's talk about it post fall. Like we've
Okay.
created the circumstances for the Galactic Empire's fall. Let's figure out what that empire looks like now after it's fallen.
Yeah, because then we can retain the mystery of what happened in the past.
Right, yeah.
So I guess the question is like, who is in charge now?
Yeah, I mean, well, let's go ahead and try and think about. All right. Let's think about it this way, right? What is the most important thing within this society, within Gate itself?
Probably not running out of resources.
No, it's not just about resource allocation, because I can assume that we're not quite post scarcity, but I'm assuming that they're not really worried about their resources so much. If we're looking at this like it's probably like a class 4 planet of some kind, right?
Well, and they have a region of space, right? So presumably they have other planets to work with.
Yes, there's a confederation of some kind, I would imagine.
Inside the wormhole. Okay.
Yeah. It's the wormhole empire of
then Harmony, because they can't afford a war among them in a closed space.
Yeah, I like that idea.
All right, so if Harmony is the most important thing because they can't afford, any kind of warmongering, let's go ahead and figure out what their government would look like if that's the case.
Is it mutually assured destruction? Because that's what we have right now.
Well, would you call what we're experiencing Harmony, Daniel?
Nope.
Then I suppose not. All right. What I would like to do is I'd like to do something that, like I don't want another representative democracy good type thing. I want to do something
that's so boring.
Oh no, yeah, I was actually going to suggest like some sort of like, I don't know, totalitarian, like one person lays down all the laws and that's that.
Ooh, like a benevolent autocrat?
Essentially, yeah.
I don't really want to do God Emperor of Dune, though. That's the thing.
No.
Good God Emperor. Oh, yeah, he was kind of
good,
but
that's what I mean. Exactly.
Wait, what if the space whales are the leaders?
Ooh, that could be a thing.
Like, because they're viewed as this like higher being, they just
like divine.
Yeah, they're the divine creatures. So whatever they decree, then the civilization follows it.
It could be okay. So I was watching The Last Kingdom lately, and the Vikings, at least in that show, the main Viking would follow the orders of his sorcerer, who just is like bullshitting him all the time. But the sorcerer genuinely believes in whatever nonsense prophecies he's coming up with. Maybe they rule by oracle. Like there's not like an organized rulership. It's really they consult with these whales, receive divinities, and then carry them out.
Yeah, they like interpret the music, and
that's
how they. Yeah,
I did want to kind of mess with some kind of like musical part. Like I was thinking like we can have musicians be like the leaders, man. Like that's kind of where I wanted to think about it. So I'm glad that y'all went there without me. I appreciate that.
They listen to the tones.
Oh my God, what is that from?
I think
is that just Star Trek 5?
It does sound really familiar.
It's from a lot of things. I also used it in the RPG that we're setting up.
There's this Civ 6 culture tech called distributed sovereignty. And I find that idea and the name to sound really interesting.
I mean, that's kind of what it is, right? Like what the whale thingy is. It sounds like it.
Part of me wants to say like we have the whale prophet, but every day or every week that person changes, in some way.
Like they pass the interpreter all around.
Right. Yeah. So that way there's no such thing as like, that person, like one person gaining too much power.
Maybe they have some maybe the key like has some functioning technology and they use that to switch the mind of the prophet to different people.
Can we have an enclave instead of just a singular prophet as well? So that way it's
like, they create an enclave with it.
Yeah, because otherwise I would imagine that you'd be able to just fake being a prophet and people would
Mhm.
believe you. Like, even if it's just for a couple of hours, that's still enough to cause damage. So I would imagine that it's like you basically have to be verified. Like there is a group of, let's say, like 6 to 13 people, and then they all know that they're, concordant. They're speaking for the whale prophet, right?
Mhm.
And so they are speaking in harmony. And so if you can try and fake it, but you'd be outed very quickly because there's like, like you need co-signers for this bullshit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I could see it too. Like, I can imagine that being the end result of the people who find the key initially, find these bodies, figure out the technology and its link to the whale music, right? And then they realize that they have to create an enclave for themselves to worship this this methodology, right? And then the whole verification process they put in place, because there probably were like charlatans and such, and so they had to figure
Mm.
that out, and then they had to travel beyond their planet to wherever the whales are to really consult with them, and then they use this technology to keep things in check.
And so this group now,
Mm-hmm.
how do they express the governance, right? Like, because I would love to do this in like some kind of a musical sense, like every week there's a new super group that jams together and like sets the world right. Like, but I would like to do something like that, but maybe make it a little bit more serious.
Yeah. um I mean, I'm seeing in my mind like the music as gospel, not gospel like the gospel choir, but the music is like um heavenly music that's passed around somehow instead of
Hmm.
scripture.
Mm. Like an oral tradition kind of thing.
Yeah, like maybe the way they pass around sacred texts is by passing around sacred songs.
Mhm.
So we're also in a society where popular music is inherently divine, and it is
Yes,
also like prescriptive of government.
I like that.
Mhm. Me too.
Yeah,
I don't know what
that's
it means,
that's
but I
pretty
like it.
cool. Okay. Okay. Well, I think that we've created enough of a society and a setting where we can fuck everything up. So let's go ahead and roll for a twist and see what we have to deal with. Oh, by the way, if you want to add in your twist to our giant twist list and fuck up our own world, you can actually do that by joining Patreon. We accept patron twists all the time. Let's go ahead and roll one and see what happens. Okay, this is a weird one. I like it though. So this one is called War is Sports. So,
What?
What?
yeah,
Huh.
look, this is a patron suggested twist, and that's totally fine. I don't know what it means. I didn't write it. So let's try and interpret that and then add it into a twist. How the fuck are we going to make this work?
Whale
So
water sports.
Sorry, what?
wait,
Sorry.
what? Can you, what was that?
Just ignore me for now. Go ahead, Courtney.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no, no, no. I'm going to go back and listen to it anyway. You might as well say that again.
I don't want to. I don't want to preempt Courtney because it sounded like she had something. But I said whale water sports.
That's okay. I thought you said that, and
I
that's
thought
not
so
the
too.
thing that you think it is, Daniel.
That yeah, I'm also going in that direction.
We're
So
in the
wait, you
same
also
page.
want
No,
whale
no, no,
pissing?
no, no, no. I was saying that that's how I interpreted what he was saying. I
I'm
was
Yeah.
I'm glad,
yeah.
Daniel. Courtney, what's your idea?
Okay, so my idea it was war is sport, right? Was that was the twist?
That is correct.
Okay.
War is sports.
So since we're all about music and basically like bands as sort of scripture in a way or songs of scripture, like battle of the bands kind of competitions.
For discordant beliefs.
Yeah, or even interpretations of the holy whale scripture.
I like that as a way of figuring out what is the truth.
Mm.
I'm also kind of liking this idea that, as I kind of alluded to previously, they do need something that creates unity. So maybe to them, like the way that they get their aggression out is through sports and is through like really aggressive battle of the bands type stuff. But what does that look like? Because everyone knows that chariot racing was a thing back in Rome, but less people know how violent the fans were. Everyone's like, oh, soccer hooliganism, but then like back in Rome, entire sections of the city were burned down when certain chariot races happened, and they were like all decked out and they're like, that's my favorite chariot racer. If he doesn't win, I'm going to murder someone. Like that level of like aggression, but without the murder, maybe,
I mean, can they ride the mighty moonworm?
No, but maybe there's a giant mosh pit.
Are the whales involved in this somehow?
That's what I was wondering. Like, do people have like favorite whales? Like,
oh my god, yes.
I'm gonna go with jazz whale personally.
Well, they could be. Maybe the whales are spread. They're spread out through the sector somehow, right? And they're like they're higher dimensionals, like partially in our dimension of space. So, like, are they like in different, like, tied to different systems in this region? And so you gotta like go to that whale and then I don't know, do something there as part of the sport.
Can we have it so like above what those people know? Can we just have it so it's actually all just the same interdimensional whale? It's just that our perception of it is so limited that it's like I'll kill you for that piece of whale that I like, not knowing that it's like
it's
just the same
whale.
thing.
Yeah,
and that works perfectly with a 5-dimensional object because it could be in multiple places at once from our perspective.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So let's run with that then.
That's like the cats. Remember from the episode with the cooking stuff.
Oh, I was thinking of that when you were describing like a 2D object in 3D space, how it looks like a circle getting larger and smaller because they can't understand what it looks like.
Oh yeah. But I think we also had those Cheshire cats that were all one cat originally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some synchronicity going on. I like that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. So what can we do with that then?
I mean, the purpose of us coming up with that was to, well, for one, to answer the prompt, but it's a way of creating adding to the harmony in their world.
I'd like there to be like, okay, there because you said there has to be harmony. We're trying to figure out what war is sports mean. And I'm trying to think that there's factionalism within this system that is actually all unified. They're just unwilling or unwitting of it, right?
Yeah. They have to come to that realization.
Right. And the idea being that these battle of the bands is what causes fusion and harmony to actually come together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But let's kind of like twist the nips a little bit and figure what we actually mean by that.
Twist the nips.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how they decide which enclave governs for a time.
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm more into that now. So like it's a battle of the band, and whoever wins Battle of the Bands actually gets to rule for a little bit.
Yeah, they set policy for however long till the next battle.
Okay, this is actually goofy as shit, and I kind of like that.
So this is also making me think of that Lords of Synth short from Adult
Oh my
Swim.
god, yes!
So now I'm just picturing like what happens if the Battle of the Bands, they actually realize like, oh shit, we can team up and become even more powerful together as some super band.
Okay, Courtney, this is actually amazing. Holy shit. We also obviously need all of the all of the people in Lords of Sin, like that massive
oh, obviously, yeah.
Like hold on, Daniel has no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Hold on, Daniel, I'm gonna send that to you.
For our listeners, if you aren't familiar with Lords of Synth, you should really look it up on YouTube. It's
an adult swim. It's like 11 minutes. It's Adult Swim. It's live at the Necropolis, and it is so worth the gut. It's basically like Too Many Cooks. Well, I'm not going to say that actually. Just go watch it. It's amazing. It's really fantastic. Yeah. Okay. I feel like we've created a really wacky, interesting world here. Is there anything else that we kind of want to figure out before we leave it?
I would have a question about, we talked about the interior of the wormhole, but like, I mean, I assume you could deposit this concept into whatever you're crafting and figure out what's outside the wormhole because it's the interaction with it that makes it interesting. Or you could say that really this is all just constrained to their reality. Like we don't care about what's outside of it.
Well, yeah, because as we were talking about previously, the people don't even notice that they're traveling through this space anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, they unless they're actively being, unless they're actively seeking out the wormhole, which they probably don't know about, then they just travel right through it. It's like,
well, I guess we did talk a little bit about, because the previous empire used to get out of it by inhabiting bodies out there and doing whatever they do.
Right.
So I guess it depends on how you want to use the setting. Like if you want to make, I don't know, like a treasure hunting party who has heard of the myth of this place and they go through whatever ordeal to get in, then it's about interacting with the culture we just created.
Right. Or alternatively, you can all play like people in a band who are or it's like the quest to represent your, favorite aspect of the space whale.
Sci-fi bards.
Yeah. We've got heavy metal for reference. We've got Lords of Synth as a reference.
Yeah, now I want to play this game. I want to play a sci-fi bard game.
With space whales.
With space
whales. Yeah.
And mind you, when we talk about whales, we might not necessarily directly think whales. We're just thinking of like massive fifth dimensional unknowable cosmic being.
Yeah.
It's just easier to use whale as shorthand, and also Star Trek V.
They also make whale noises, though. I mean, that's got to be a thing.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've been picturing like a giant whale. So
yeah, pretty much like Shamu, but in space.
Yeah.
Oh no! See, that's the worst kind of whale. Come on. I'm
picturing a whale that's like partially beached in this giant space cave, and it's like you got to like go over to it and pet it and stuff, and it's friendly, but it's huge and scary.
This is like the good version of It, where you find out that the source of all your delusions wasn't just a giant spider, but in fact a giant whale.
A happy smiling whale.
Yeah. I mean, if it was Stephen King appropriate, then it would be a turtle technically, but
yeah,
it's whatever. All right. You know what? I feel like we've created another really cool, fantastical world here. I think that's just going to be where we're going to wrap up for the day. Again, this was all kind of slapdash. So, Chris, we wish you well. We hope you get better soon. And hopefully we'll be able to finish up that series that we were in the middle of. So remember that if you want us to build your world, you can always email us over at worldbuildwithus@gmail.com, or you can go ahead and shoot us a tweet, a DM. You can slide into our DMs over at Let's Worldbuild on the Twitter. Or if you don't want to do that, you just want to come hang out in our Discord. We have a Discord. And if you're feeling particularly generous, or if you just want to add in a twist to the twist list that we talked about, you can always be a patron of ours by going to our Patreon. Link for the Discord and the Patreon in the description. Remember that we love you very much. We're going to get through it together. Until next week.